Okay, I'm Ben Byng, and I'm from Tracy, California, and I'd like to come up here and demonstrate a really nice fly. It's called a Damsel Lite. It's the Lite series. It's Lake Davis Damsel nymph, and we fish up in Lake Davis for damsels, and they come off in huge numbers. And the problem that is out there that I've seen is that a lot of the commercial damsel nymphs aren't thin enough, so that's why I call it the Damsel Lite. So it's a very thin, a realistic swimming type damsel that I'll use. I have here the Daiichi 1270. You can tell curved hook, and you can use Tiemco 200s or that type of hook on there. And I actually incorporate into the hook the body a little bit as I make the fly. So that's what kind of makes it unique, is the curve here. We can actually make it part of our fly. I got olive thread. I'm going to start with just a typical jam knot right back behind the eye. Right there, make sure that's good, tight. Now what I like to do is you can buy on the market a lot of damsel eyes out there that are already painted black and stuff, but I found if I just take some cheap 30-pound monofilament, that I can burn it in some hemostats, and then I get these really nifty little eyes that are already done up for me. And I don't know, they're really small. Can you get that on there? There we go. And how I install them is in my thread position is actually about, say, one eye length back behind the hook. So right there. And they're going to be 90 degrees onto the hook, but you know, trying to tie them on this way is a pain. So I just found out if I just tie it parallel to the hook with a couple thread wraps, then I can use my thread and manipulate these eyes into location and just kind of give it an adjustment, a hand adjustment there. And then I'll come to, like you would typical clouser eyes, I'll put some wraps around it and you can go underneath it. Just kind of tighten that up in there pretty good. It won't roll around a whole lot once the materials are actually tied into it. At this time, I'm just going to take a black Sharpie pen, and I'm going to hit lightly on the outside of the eye to make the dark center pupil that's in on there. I kind of like the smoky haziness. When they start to emerge or swim off the weed beds, they got like a haze into their eye. So sometimes I don't even darken them up, but people like the dark eyes, so they will put dark eyes on there. For my rib of the fly, I'm going to put in here, this is Flashabou, that's chartreuse. And what happens is these guys got a little waxy body. And a lot of people tie them where they dub the body, or they put in materials that are really not coherent to what the natural is. So I found out if I blend this inside some Marabou, this actually will give me that green hue to the body that the damsel nymph has. So I'll trim just a piece out of here, and I'll tie that in right at the back of the eyes. Slip that up there like that. And I'll tie, now I will do a thread-based wrap just going along the shank of the hook. Tie that down just like that. Evenly wrap that in. And remember I said we're using the curve of the hook, so I'm going to go back there. This could be a little bit awkward for a few people. And I'll put that back in my material clip. The next material I'm going to use is J. Fair's Brown Olive Marabou. And the reason why I like this Marabou is because it comes in these really, can you get the long plumes in there? You see how that is? Right there. You can really work. There's just a lot of good workable material that's up and down here that you can, it's good value for the money. It costs a little more, but you can work with it. And the stuff matted in here, I'm going to remove that out. Get that out. That's a little bit matted. And what I'm going to take is about maybe just like a ½ inch clump. And I'm going to pull the stem away from the Marabou. You always do that, because if not, it'll just make everything kind of uneven. Trim the butts out of there, just like that. So see how I got that right there? This is what we're talking. And right behind the eye of the hook, I'm going to just do a couple loose wraps, and then I'm going to tighten that whole bundle down, just like that. Now, I kind of let it all relax, right? You see how it kind of sprung out a little bit? And I'm going to use my fingers and kind of just guide this lightly around the hook shank. And then as I go with my thread, and I'm taking kind of liberal wraps going back, I'm just tying this Marabou in, going around the hook shank till I get to the rear, and I'm going way back down into that tie-in point where I left that Flashabou. Now remember, I'm not trying to make a fuzzy, an nymph-like body. I'm trying to make actually a streamlined, thin body, so I come back through with my thread back through it and mat all that down. See, a very thin body. That's the whole point of this fly. It's a Damsel Lite. Come back in here at the tail, and probably about 1/4 of an inch, I'm going to snip that off. Don't use scissors, just snip it off with your fingers. That's all you need to do. Now, what happens is when the fly gets wet in the water, you can see that it just becomes that nice little almond-shaped rudder that's in the back of the gills for the damsel nymph. So that works out perfect. And now I'm just going to come through, and very liberal, I'm going to put a lot of wraps into the Marabou with this Flashabou, and you can see that green start to highlight with that brown olive Marabou, and it really looks just like the natural. Now tie that off. Okay, so I put my set point for my wing case at 1/3 back on the hook shank right here. This is where I'm going to tie it in. And I'm going to tie it in with the Magic Shrimp Foil, which is latex that's been dyed. And some people like to use, some of the scud backs and other materials, but I found that this really has a nice color to it, matched just perfect to what the wing case looks like when they're really getting ready to merge and get darkening up. And it's in, this one's the green olive color, and they're already, this makes it easy, they're already pre-cut in little strips, just perfect for me. One side's kind of dull, one side's kind of shiny. So what I want to do is I want to tie that dull side down, because I'm going to pull this over. Tie that right in there just like that. And you want to tie it in pretty good with some pretty good wraps. This is stretchy, and if anything's going to work itself undone on the fly, it's going to be this latex rubber coming out undone. And for the thorax area and the legs that are sticking out, I'm just going to use one material, and it's the J Fair long shuck in the brown olive. And this is just like a typical chenille, but it's got Flashabou in it that's dyed to the colors that we like. Now, damsel legs are really wiry, and when they're away from weed beds and they're looking to find something like your float tube or a rock or go to the shore, they're wiry and they're out, and they're always moving around a little bit. And I think that this actually will mimic it pretty well. I'm going to strip this out just to get down to the core there to tie that in. So I can tie that in real nice and tight. And I only want to take through this area 2 good wraps. That's it. I'll have way too much material in there if I was to do any more than that. I'm going to tie, I did a couple wraps behind, and I'll lift up just for secure reasons. I'll tie a few wraps in front of the material before trimming it off. That way, it's good and locked in there. Now I'm going to turn the fly a little bit into my zone, and what I'm doing is coming right off the top. I'm going to trim a lot of this out. They only have 3 legs on each side, and I don't need 3 legs, so I trim that off at the top and maybe clean out a little bit in and around the eye here. And now I'm going to take my magic foil and pull that over. And notice how I kind of pull it over, but I only have one thread kind of holding it on there. The reason why is if I pull this real tight and put some tight thread wraps in there, when I go to whip finish, this is going to work its way off. I just want it there for effects of having a wing case, and I don't really need to sit there and hunker down that too much. So now I'll go ahead and I'm going to demonstrate that again. So I'm just going to pull that over, not real tight, let the thread kind of hold it up on top. I'm going to take a wrap around the top, underneath, and back over a couple times, just to, I call them lock wraps, and that's to lock that latex down in there, that magic shrimp foil, and then trim it off. So, just like that. Now I'll come in and just whip finish the front of the fly, and apply a little bit of the head cement. Just a tiny little drop will do. Right there, maybe underneath. And for the last step, I'm going to come in here with my scissors and just trim out all that bulky stuff on the bottom. So that way, now I have the legs are kind of like out parallel to the nymph, how I like it. And that's the Damsel Lite in the golden olive color.